Schreiner, hello and welcome to Forcible Questions. It is oh, I see we got another countdown here. All right. Mike Schreiner, so nice to have you join us for Four Simple Questions. I am grateful for your time, and it's really good to see you again, my friend. It's been far too long.
Yeah, Kurt, great to see you, and it's a real honor and a pleasure to join you. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Well, when I think of people who are working hard and serving, you are top of the list, my friend. You have been working so hard this past year. Tell me how, we're a year into this.
Mhm.
How's COVID been for Mike Schreiner, you and your family and your hard work?
I think on a personal and family level, things are good. I can't
Good.
complain. I mean, we're lucky. Both my wife and I are still employed. We're able to work from home. My oldest daughter is at university, but doing most of it online.
Right.
My youngest daughter's in high school and elected to do it online. And given how it sort of started and stopped so often, I think that was a good choice on
Yeah.
her part. And so I'm lucky we're doing well. I mean, obviously, I'm like most people. I'm ready for this to be over with. I'm 51 years old, and last year was the first year in my entire life I didn't see my mom once. So that's been a bit hard. But I think
Yeah.
of people who have lost loved ones, to COVID or have been separated from their immediate family or working front lines. I certainly have it much easier than those folks. And I think of all the I was a longtime small business owner. I think of
Hmm.
all the struggling small businesses are barely hanging on to
Right.
survive. And
Yeah.
so I just feel for all the people that COVID has so negatively affected. And then just in terms of time, I think any elected official right now, the demands on our time have been huge.
Hmm.
And I especially feel for, the premier or all the premiers and the prime minister, and mayors too, because oftentimes they're the ones that a lot of the tough decisions they're having to
Right.
make. And,
Right.
you're not going to please, there's always going to be somebody you're not going to
Yeah.
please when you're making these kinds of life and death decisions. But I can't tell you how many people are reaching out to my office for help, and how much time it's taken. I thought when this started, I thought, oh, we're gonna lock down, and I'm gonna really double down and learn French because I've been slowly trying to learn French since I've been elected.
Brilliant.
And like 1 week into this, I was like, "Oh, I don't have time for any." Like this is just like I'm working long, hard days and really trying to be there for my community and my
Right.
constituents.
Right. And over the past year, we've seen so many people step up in so many different ways to serve, which is the conversation we're having today, right? Around this
Hmm.
idea of what it means to be in service to others. So we've got kind of building on what you were saying there. We've got forcible questions about this idea of service. We're going to run them past you, looking for your open, honest, and feedback. Um, all on this journey of trying to figure out what it really means to be in service to others. So let's jump in with question number one because I want to build on some of your and maybe circle back to some of your reflections you just had there. But question number one is, what does the word service mean to you?
Yeah, so for me, it's about the work I do is about helping other people, helping my community, helping my province, helping our country, the world. And I'm a deep believer in service leadership. I think as an elected official, my job is to serve my constituents, my community, the province. And I think some people define leadership as, somebody who, is always the center of attention, always at the front of the parade. Maybe
Right.
they're angling for a way to promote themselves, or in the case of politics, their party. And so that's not how I approach things. I really approach things as, you put people first, you put people before party, you you put what's good for your community ahead of what's good for you personally. And I one of the reasons I've been very active in Rotary and the Rotary
Mm,
Club of Guelph in particular is, their motto is service above self.
right on. Yeah.
And it's one of the things I really admire about Rotarians, and people who believe deeply in service-oriented leadership.
Hmm.
That you do what you do, and you do it whether you get credit for it or not,
Right.
whether it advances your career or not, because it's just the right thing to do.
So a couple things there that I really appreciate. First, I want to acknowledge you gave a shout out to the premier at a hard time when maybe it's tough to do that both politically and otherwise. So I think that humility and then that willingness to be clear about what you're being in service to, in this case, serving your constituents. I think that's really important to this idea that we're calling service leadership. But does that resonate with you at all? This idea of humility and being clear about what it is you're serving.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you're going to be a servant leader, it can't be ego driven. It has to be about, what's good for other people. I think you have to be empathetic and really try to put yourself into other people's shoes in their position,
Hmm.
try to understand
Hmm.
their perspective. And, in the case of the premier, anybody who listens to what I say at Queen's Park or, hears me in different media interviews, I'm pretty harshly critical of some of the policies the current premier puts forward, particularly a number of policies that I think are just really destructive of the environment,
Right.
which is an issue that's obviously near and dear to my heart. But at the same time, I can also put myself in his shoes and think about uh, tough and hard decisions and decisions really around, like the decision to shut down businesses, like directly
Right.
affects
Right.
so many people's lives and livelihoods. The decisions to, lock down churches, for example, so many people, that
Hmm.
community is so
Yes.
dear to them.
Yeah.
And those are really hard decisions. And then the decisions not to do it and possibly risk people's lives because the virus will spread more. And so I think that sense of empathy, that sense of, trying to understand the shoes other people are walking in. And if I could give an example of that for my constituents, a big issue everywhere in Ontario, but I think it's, particularly here in Guelph, is just the rising cost of living, especially
Hmm.
finding an affordable place to call home. And so, we have a number of homeless issues here in Guelph, like any
Right.
city in Ontario. And been a part of a number of roundtable discussions about that, and mostly with people who, like myself, are very progressive minded but are comfortably middle class. And so I actually went to the drop-in center with the permission of the leadership there and held a town hall, essentially, quote, town hall,
Yeah.
where I just listened to everyone who came into the drop-in center to talk to me about their vision for ending homelessness in Guelph. And the reason I did that was I felt, it's one thing for middle class people to talk about how to end
Right.
homelessness. It's
Right.
another thing to actually listen and learn and try to implement policies, solutions, changes from the people who are living with that experience right
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
and to go to where they are
Right.
instead of asking folks to come to where I am,
Right.
and to
Right.
really try to listen and learn and then take their perspective to the decision making tables,
That's such a
because I haven't lived everyone's life,
right.
you know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I have to really listen and learn to people who've
Yeah.
had different life experiences than I've had.
Yeah. Some of our research has really shown that equity is just, well, it's everything, right? Any decisions, any actions we take need to be grounded in equity. What kinds of leads us to our second fourth simple question, which is, and maybe this is building. You shared a good example of, I think that was an act of leadership or service leadership on your part, reaching out to that specific group. Can you share for us an act of service that has changed your life? And this could be something that maybe someone's done for you, or something that you've done for someone that has set you on a new trajectory. An act of service that's changed your life.
Yeah. Can I give you two, Kurt? We have time
Sure.
for two.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I want to give you one for when I was in high school, so when I was young, and then another one as an adult. And so when I was in high school, I wasn't like the most popular kid in our high school, and I grew up on a farm in the middle of nowhere in rural western Kansas. So I literally went to like kindergarten through grade 12 with the same 50 people,
Right.
pretty
Right. Right.
much.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just to put some context around
Yeah.
that. But I kind of ran with the crowd of, like was out for sports and I got good marks in school. And so I was kind of part of that crowd. But I also hung out with some of the kids who were oftentimes bullied
Hmm.
or maybe just weren't considered part of the cool crowd, so to
Yeah.
speak. And because I felt I should connect with everybody in my high school and my community. And I remember one person coming to me one day and who had been like I think kind of viciously bullied, and I came to his defense. And later, he pulled me aside and said, nobody's ever defended me like that, and like
Mm.
why would somebody like you stick up for somebody like me? And
Powerful.
those words have always stuck with me, and I've
Yeah.
really tried to live my life by that standard of you know, uh, sticking up for everyone and having the courage to stick up for somebody when they were being bullied, because that can be hard to do because it's kind of scary, eh? Because you don't know,
Absolutely.
am I going to start getting bullied?
Yeah. Yeah.
Am I bringing on attack onto
Yeah.
myself?
Yeah.
What are people going to think? And so I've sort of a standard I've tried to set for myself, but it's really a standard that what this person said to me in that moment of us
Powerful.
connecting
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
so powerful, and like in some ways maybe changed the trajectory of my life in the sense that um, I'm going to live by the words that you expressed to me, and that's
Hmm.
how
Oh, I love
I
that.
want to live my life. And then I would say maybe as an adult, I'll give you one that came to me, uh, that some people did to me for me. So when the big blackout happened, I think back in 2003. Remember when like literally the whole Eastern Seaboard lost
Right.
power?
Yeah.
So my business, I was running a local food business at the time that had started here in Guelph, but had moved to Brampton, and we had relatively had a new warehouse set up and all of our refrigeration equipment and everything. And
Right.
the power outage blew all of our equipment out. And for whatever reason, our insurance didn't cover it, and it was like I had to go into I don't know how much debt to like replace everything, and I couldn't get any bank loans. I'd already had a line of credit I was drawing on, and so I couldn't find any financing capital for it. And so I went to my suppliers, mostly local farmers, and people I'd been buying food from for maybe 7, 8, 9 years at that
Yeah.
point. And I'd always paid on time. I always actually paid above market rates for their product. Like I always tried to get rid of the middle person, so I'd buy
Hmm.
direct so they could get a little extra money, and I could still provide a competitive price to my customers. And I remember going to a lot of them saying like, I think I'm gonna have to shut down. I don't know what we can do. And every single one of them said, you know what,
Awesome.
30 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever you need. Like you've been good to us and we're going to be good to you. And we don't want this unfortunate event to put you out of business. And it took a number of years to, pay all that money
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. Yeah.
But literally my suppliers and local farmers, and we're talking, a lot of like, these were like, relatively small, medium sized local organic farmers.
Right.
They didn't have a lot of
Right.
money either, but all of them said, you know what, we'll float you the money you need to survive, and we trust you. And so I just the power of relationships and
Absolutely.
building
Oh, I love those.
relationships
Yeah.
are so key to, I
Yeah.
think, running a successful business
Yeah.
or nonprofit organization or whatever it is you're trying to do. And that's those folks all really stepped up
Love that.
and came through for me
Yeah.
in a pretty tough situation.
And doesn't that remind us that sometimes we're serving and sometimes we're in receipt of service, right? And that, a life well lived,
Absolutely.
I think it's that give and take. Those are, I love both those stories, Mike. Those are so brilliant. They're so good. How do you, question number three, how do you enjoy serving? And I know you serve in so many ways. You can put a professional lens on this, or maybe there's, outside your career, but how do you enjoy serving?
Yeah, I love it. I get so much value out of it.
Right.
And people ask about volunteering. I do a lot of volunteering. Unfortunately, not as much now that I've been an MPP, but just because there's so many other demands on my time. But I still try to volunteer as much as I can because I love the feeling of connecting with people in community
Mm,
and knowing
right.
you're doing something good. And whether it's putting lights up for sparkles in the park,
Yeah.
so something physical like that, or serving breakfast at Hope House, or I don't know, packing food for kids, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it. I will say one of the things that, even though I don't get to volunteer as much anymore, one of the great things about being an MPP, and I'm assuming MP has the same experience, is so many people in our community come into my office and need help with something,
Mm,
and usually by the time they come to my office, they're in more desperate. They've tried everything else, and I'm
right.
like
Right. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
last resort.
Yeah.
And so my staff does a lot of that work, and they're amazing, amazing, amazing group of people who really serve our community. But I oftentimes am involved as well. And to know that you made a difference in somebody's
Right.
life that
Yeah.
can be deeply profound. And one example for me is I was at an event, and a young woman came up to me and she said, "Here's my baby." And she goes, "I want you to see my baby because you and your office is the reason I didn't lose my baby, because you came and helped me when I really needed help."
Oh
And so
my
it's moments like that when you just
God.
think, wow, like
Wow.
what a privilege to be
Yes.
in this
Yes.
job and
Yeah.
to know that you can make such a profound difference in people's lives.
Oof. That's an amazing. Oh, you're dropping some gold here today, my friend. That's brilliant. I love that. And to have that and meet that, because again, goes back to relationship. When we're in service to others, it's all about relationship, isn't it? Like that's,
Absolutely. Yeah,
yeah,
no.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Last question for us. And again, I encourage you to think about either, at your home or your professional life, but where have you seen service create inspiring change? Because we're convinced that service and inspiring change are intrinsically linked. And I love an example or two if you've got one.
Yeah, I'm gonna. So one of the ones for me that, in this, because it's an issue that's near and dear to my heart, is the urgency of addressing the climate crisis,
Hmm.
and I think Greta Thunberg, who the Swedish, she was 16, I think, when she
Yeah, yeah.
started her first climate strike, and she's become kind of a global sensation as inspired an entire global movement, and has probably done more to move the needle on climate action than all the green politicians like myself combined, and how many world leaders, et cetera, et cetera. And to think, of like going to the Swedish parliament every Friday all by
Right.
yourself and holding a sign up and doing it week after week after week and being ignored essentially
Mhm.
until finally people
Yeah.
started to notice. And then, people are like, "Oh my God, she became an overnight sensation." No, like an overnight sensation after weeks and
Yeah.
weeks of just persistent commitment to something that she believed in, that I think is probably the biggest issue. Well, it is, I think, undoubtedly the biggest issue
Right.
of our generation. I mean, notwithstanding COVID and everything we're going through
Hmm. Of
right
course.
now, but how many people have the fortitude and the persistence uh, to do that, and then to become such a poised speaker and
Yeah.
inspire so much change at such a young age, and to overcome her own like personal disability in that regard as
Hmm.
well. I think it's just such an incredible and inspiring story. And then so that's been more recent. When I was younger, I for whatever reason, Martin Luther King was my inspiration. And again, I think John Lewis as well, and others in the
Hmm.
U.S. Civil Rights Movement,
Yeah.
to put your body on the line. Like,
Right.
I just think of anybody who hasn't watched the movie Selma. or read a book on, you know, the day that the march across Edmund Pettus Bridge, and people literally beaten till, you know, in John Lewis's case, you know, almost died, and
Hmm.
significant brain damage in service to your community,
Yes.
just for basic human rights and dignity and respect and the right to vote, and, you know, just so many things that so many people take for granted in a
Right.
democratic society, to be able to have the courage to put everything, like literally your life on the line,
Right.
in service to other people, I've always found incredibly inspiring, and tried to use that to guide my work a little bit as a politician.
Yes.
But certainly, I've never had been in a situation or in a position that was just so profound,
Right. Right.
and as sort of that movement, but in particular that day.
Hmm. Yeah. Examples like that are incredibly humbling, aren't they?
They are. It makes you
Yeah.
feel as if, wow. Because sometimes people say to me, it's like, wow, you've accomplished so much in your 50 years. And I think, oh,
Mm.
compared
Yeah.
to some
Right.
other
Yeah.
folks,
Yeah.
no. But
Yeah.
you know what, Kurt? There are everyday heroes everywhere. And
Yes.
so I think of,
Yes.
you know, I haven't done this in a while because of COVID, but one of my favorite things to do is serve breakfast at Hope House here in Guelph.
Right.
And oftentimes I do it with a lot of the folks from community living. And
Right on.
I love, they're just everyday heroes to me.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Yep.
a group of people who come in and tell volunteers like me what to do and how to do it, and day in and day out serve breakfast to, you know, some of the most vulnerable
Hmm.
people in our community. And to me, those, you know, so there's, you know, there's the big sort of maybe globally
Yeah.
recognized
But there's everyday.
heroes who serve their communities, but every community
Absolutely.
has
Yeah.
everyday heroes
Yeah.
who, you know, serve people. And we wouldn't be you know, Guelph wouldn't be the caring, inclusive, wonderful place to live
If
that
not for
it
that.
is,
Yeah.
if it weren't for those everyday heroes.
Yeah. Fully agree. And that's why we're on this mission to, fully explore this idea of service and what it means. That is our time, and I want to be really respectful because you are a busy guy and you have accomplished a lot, and I know you got lots of things to get back to. Mike, thanks so much for this. Thanks for your sharing. Thank you for your service leadership to our community, to the movement. Um, Continue to be impressed and just grateful for all that you do for our community. So thanks so much for your time today. I really do appreciate it.
Well, Kurt, thank you, and thank you for all you do for our community as well. Like, you're another one of those I put in the category of servant leadership. So it's appropriate that you're doing this podcast.
Well, I appreciate that. And I'm going to start getting you to use the expression service leadership because we're moving off the word servant and we're going to start using the
Oh,
word
gotcha.
service. I'm going to send you some information on that, and we'll get you. I'll get you on the right side there.
Okay, sounds good.
Excellent, Mike. Thanks so much.
Take care,
Appreciate it.
my
It's really
friend.
good to see you. You too, eh? Cheers. Take care.
Yep,
Bye.
bye now.